Hello everyone. Let's start with the fourth chapter called The Freedom Struggle of 1857. So in this chapter we will discuss about the freedom struggle that we Indians began in the year 1857. Okay? So we will go through that chapter and we will come to know what are the important aspects or what are the discontents among the people, what are the reason, what is the scope or what is the causes of this freedom struggle of 1857. It is not like that before 1857 we don't have any struggle or any movement against the Britishers, but this was the nationwide movement. That's why it got a huge impact on the British government as well as the freedom struggle of our Indians. Okay? In 1857, a great struggle took place in India which completely shook the British government. Since the struggle was very intense, very high, it shook the British Empire or British government. Even it impacted the British rule in England also. This struggle did not arise all of a sudden, and because Britishers had started so many changes in our nation, we had seen in the last chapter. This created discontent among the people. People were not happy under the British rule or the British policies. That's why the struggle was not arises on a single day. It was a angerness of the throughout the journey. Earlier, as well as many such struggles took place in India against the British. Before 1857 also there are too many struggles happened against the Britishers. The scope of the struggle of 1857 and its background was taken into consideration by V.D. Savarkar in his book named The Indian War of Independence 1857. So there are too many books or multiple books written by authors or writers on the story of struggle of 1857, but a book named The Indian War of Independence 1857 written by V.D. Savarkar. V.D. Savarkar, we know Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. We also called him as a Veer Savarkar. He was clearly picturized the reasons or the condition of the Indians during that time and what causes the war. Later, many revolutionists got inspiration from it to fight against the British, and after the war too many Indians got inspired, and many after read this book they got inspiration to fight for the nation. So this book or this movement played a very important role in our Indian history. Struggle before 1857. So as we already discussed, there are too many struggles happened before the 1857. Remember, the first fight happens between the Britishers and India. It happened with Sirajuddaulah. Remember, the Nawab of Bengal. It was happened in year 1757. Britishers came in our country in 1600 AD, and overall for the first 100 years they ruled or they done the business according per the law. But after 1700 they start to capture the different territories or the different parts of country, and first time they fought with Sirajuddaulah at Bengal, right? Remember, in 1757. And you can see the duration or the gap that had created a huge struggle after the 100 years in 1857, right? It was exactly 100 years. And since we had done our dedicatedly freedom struggle, but it took a huge 90 years to get our independence in year 1947. So we can imagine the impact of the British rule on India. Okay, so let's take a look of the few independence struggle that happened before the 1857. Okay, at every place where the British rule was established in India, the local people had to bear the ill effects of British government. What are ill effects? The bad effects, the worst thing, right? People were not happy with the British rule, British policy, so they were impacted. The Indians started feeling that they were exploited in every strata due to the company's rule. People believed that they were exploited. Exploited means the unjust things happens to them. They were kind of looted, right? In every strata. What is strata? Strata means class. In every section, maybe it's zamindar, maybe it's a common people or the farmer, peasant, even the royal families also. So every class impacted with the British policies or the British rule. This resulted in increase of discontent among their rule. What is discontent? Angerness, or you can say not satisfied, a kind of dissatisfaction. When you are not dissatisfied with anything, or you are not dissatisfied with any person, then you will show your anger, then you will show your discontent. Same happened with the Indian people against the Britishers. Farmers and common people became bankrupt. We already discussed it in the 3rd chapter, how the farmers became bankrupt because they have no money to give to the Britishers. Crops are not as good as they have due to the situation of famines, right? But Britishers, they forcefully took their land or forcefully took the land revenue. Farmers and common people became bankrupt during the company rule. In 1770, there was major famine. You know famine? Famine means scarcity of food. It happens due to the drought condition. जब बहुत साल तक बारिश नहीं होती है तो एग्रीकल्चर नहीं होता है, तो लोगों के पास खाने के लिए भी अनाज नहीं होते हैं. That is called the famine. A drought situation, scarcity of food. We had seen in the movie Lagan. We had seen in those in those period villagers were very much in trouble that they don't have money to pay the tax, and rainfall is also not so good. So they had created a problem. So this thing happened in many times in our country. So worst situation the farmers seen in 1770. There was a major famine in the Bengal province, but British ruler were indifferent and insensitive towards Indian people. What is insensitive? No care, no feelings, right? British don't have any sympathy for the Indian farmers, that since they are facing such situation that they need to help it or they need to bring the change, but nothing. They only concerned about their money. From 1763 to 1857, the peasants of Bengal participated in the rebellion led by the sannyasi fakir. So the different communities, maybe the sannyasis, the fakir, or different peasants, zamindars, they led means they started the movement against the Britishers in different parts of the country in different period. Similar revolt took place in Gujarat. Same kind of revolt also took part in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Maharashtra and South India. If we talk about the Maharashtra, Umaji Naik also gave a strong fight against the Britishers. He organized means he gathered a community called Ramoshis to fight against the Britishers. Young youth, he organized the Ramoshis and the local youth to revolt against the British. They drew a declaration. What is declaration? An announcement, and appeal to fight against the British and overthrow the government. So they decided that we will fight against the British and we will overthrow the British government. What is overthrow? Overthrow means to remove the British government from our nation, from our country. They inspired people, and such kind of movement inspired the people in different territories also and different places also, like Pune, Satara, Ahmednagar, Solapur, Nasik, Bhor, etc. In 1832, Umaji Naik was arrested and hanged to death in Pune. Since our struggle was not so big, or we don't have much weapons, or we don't organized struggle, so in this sense our struggle doesn't happen for last. So different period we have seen many people sacrifice their life, like Umaji Naik. He was arrested in Pune and hanged to death. Same kind we have in a do you know section. What we have in a do you know section, it's a Paikas revolution. Who are Paikas? Paikas are those people who worked as a soldier for the kingdom or the ruler, right? And in part time they work on the agricultural land, and the land given to them are the rent free lands, and it was done from the ancestry. शुरू से पाइका की जो कम्युनिटी होती थी उनको फ्री में लैंड मिलते थे, और जिसपे वो लोग एग्रीकल्चर और अपना जो भी है उनका लाइवलीहुड उस पर डिपेंड होता था. एंड व्हेन किंग नीड्स देम फॉर द फाइट और द वॉर, दे जॉइन द किंग्स आर्मी. So in this way, its system happens from the ancestor. But since Britishers are more concerned with the land or the money, so they captured the land that given to the Paikas. So Paikas got discontent against the Britishers' policy, and they start revolution against them. From medieval times, there was a system of paikas existing in Odisha. The standing army. A standing army means which are kept in reserve, not the active army. They are kept in reserve. कि जरूरत पड़ने पे इनको बुलाएंगे. The standing army of various independent kings were known as paika. Rent-free lands. They've given their land without any rent. Rent-free lands were granted to them for cultivation by the king. The paikas earned their livelihood through it. In return, they were supposed to stand by the king's side in case of eruption of war. What is eruption? Begin. If war begins, then they need to support the king. What happened in 1803? The English conquered the Orissa. They took over the hereditary. What is hereditary? Which we get from our ancestors. Hereditary. आप हिंदी में कहते हैं ना खानदानी या हमारी पुश्तैनी जमीन होती है. That is called the hereditary. They took over the hereditary rent-free lands granted to the paikas. This made the paikas angry. Similarly, common man's life had also become miserable. Miserable means a worse situation, very critical situation. Because of rise in salt price, due to tax imposed on it by the British, this resulted in an armed rebellion of paikas against the British in 1817. Bakshi Jagan Bandhu Vidyadhar led this revolt. And who was the leader of the paikas? Bakshi Jagan Bandhu Vidyadhar. He was the leader of the paikas and he led the revolt. Understood? So we had seen different peoples in different period started the revolt against the British rule. The Indian tribes and forest communities also challenged the British rule. The communities, the people who are dependent on the forest for the resources, they also challenged the British government. Why happened so? Because like Britishers had put the land tax, they also put the forest tax. Even the people are not allowed to enter into the forest. They are not allowed to rear their animals or the cattle into the forest because they are totally dependent on the forest. So if someone stops them to enter into the forest, how will they survive and how will they manage? So in this way, the people the communities who are living in the remote areas or in the tribal people, they also started their movement against the Britishers. Their livelihood. What is livelihood? Livelihood means our day-to-day needs. Livelihood means day-to-day needs. The livelihood was dependent on forest resources. The British law put restrictions on it. Consequently, Bihar, Kolam area of Chota Nagpur, Gonds of Odisha, Santhals of Bihar fought against the British. The Gadkaris from Kolhapur. These are the different communities. Gonds, Santhals. These are the communities from different region. The Gadkaris community from Kolhapur and Fawn Savant from Konkan also challenged the British. Before 1857, some zamindars and royal class from different territories rebelled against the British. Even the zamindars or the royal families also started revolution against the Britishers. Even in the army of East India Company, there are many Indian soldiers. In the army of East India Company, there were many Indian sepoys. Sepoys means soldiers. They were ill-treated by the company. Their salaries and allowances were very less compared to the British soldiers. Right? Their salary or their allowances. What are the allowances? Allowances means some kind of extra benefits getting for our facilities. Like we get a house rent or medical facilities. So that is called the allowances, or sometimes the traveling. So these are the called allowances. So since Britishers also there or the Indians in the same army, Britishers are getting more facility, more salary, more benefit as compared to Indians. And Indians are ill-treated. They are not getting the higher post also in the British army. For example, the British soldiers are living in a proper house and they have a proper arrangement, and Indian soldiers are sleeping on the land in the open ground and they are not getting the proper food or not the proper salary. So it is a kind of injustice, differentiation, right? This is also the reason why the soldiers are not happy with the British rule. So The soldiers were ill-treated by the company. Their salary and allowances were very less compared to the British soldiers. In 1806 at Vellore and 1824 at Barakpur, the revolt took up a fierce form. What are fierce? A strong agitation, intense, right? When people are very aggressively, it's called a fierce, right? So a movement had taken place at Vellore and Barakpur in the year 1806 and 1824. These are different places. Vellore is in south and Barakpur is in West Bengal. So we know there are different military camps. They are called as cantonments or the military regiment. So at different places, the soldiers having a discontent against the Britishers. All this rebellion. What does rebellion means? The people who start a rebellion movement, they are called as rebellions. And what is the rebel? Rebel is a kind of resistance against someone. When you are not happy and when you show your anger or your activity against someone, that is called the rebel. So these movements happened everywhere in India. All these rebellions took place in their respective territories. They were local in nature and single-handed. Because these kind of revolutionary movement were local, they are not at a very higher level and they are single-handed. कोई बड़ा leadership नहीं था यहाँ पे या कोई बड़ी group नहीं थी जिसके से इसका ज़्यादा impact नहीं था. अगर ये शुरू भी होता था तो ब्रिटिश इसको easily stop कर देते. They easily crush such movements. तो हम लोग ज़्यादा आगे तक नहीं जा पाते थे. They were local in nature and single-handed. The British forcefully broke down the revolts. Forcefully means with much pressure. Forcefully. तो वो फोर्सफुली किसी भी हमारे मूवमेंट को रोक देते थे जिससे हम ज्यादा अपने स्ट्रगल को कंटिन्यू नहीं कर पाते थे. पब्लिक अनहैप्पीनेस वाज सप्रेस्ड बाय इट डिड नॉट वैनिश. सो जो लोगों का गुस्सा है, पब्लिक अनहैप्पीनेस वाज सप्रेस्ड. सप्रेस्ड मींस स्टॉप, बट इट वाज नॉट वैनिश. वैनिश नॉट मीन कंप्लीटली डिस्ट्रॉयड और कंप्लीटली स्टॉप. जो लो गुस्सा है वो तो होता ही था. अगर कोई मूवमेंट रुक गया तो ऐसा नहीं कि लोग उसको भूल जाते थे. People start to create another movement in a different way with a different leader or a different community, but people's anger was never stopped. At various places the rebellion took place against the British. The discontent in the mind of diverse classes blowed out in a form of this struggle, and its outbreak was in the form of an armed rebellion. Outbreak means output. People's anger, people's discontent came out in the form of armed rebellion. What is armed rebellion? The rebellion movement with the help of arms. Arms means weapons. Okay? Clear? So next topic is causes of this struggle. What are the causes? Reasons क्या था? इतना गुस्सा लोगों में क्यों था ब्रिटिशर्स के लिए? Right? हमने देखा कि ब्रिटिशर्स हमारी इकोनॉमी पॉलिसी को इम्पैक्ट कर रहे हैं, हमारे रिवेन्यू सिस्टम को इम्पैक्ट कर रहे हैं, हमसे टैक्सेस ज़बरदस्ती ले रहे हैं. इवन दे इंटरफेयर्ड इन आवर कल्चरल एंड सोशल थिंग्स ऑल्सो. दिस क्रिएटेड अ कॉज ऑफ एंगर इन द पीपल. राइट. ड्यूरिंग प्री ब्रिटिश पीरियड देयर वर मेनी किंगडम्स इन इंडिया. Whatever changes took place at center never affected the villages system. This kind of war or attack is not new in history. Many war happened in the past. Many rulers captured others' territory. It happens in the past, but it did not affected the common people life. पहले क्या होता था? दो रूलर आपस में अगर फाइट कर रहे हैं तो एक रूलर जीतेगा, तो जो रूलर जीतेगा वो दूसरे रूलर के लैंड को कैप्चर कर लेगा. लैंड को कैप्चर करने के बाद क्या उसको लोगों को इंपैक्ट करना है या लोगों के ऊपर कुछ असर डालना है? नहीं. जो लोगों की लाइफ है वैसे ही चलेगी. बट ब्रिटिशर्स के साथ ऐसा नहीं था. व्हेन ब्रिटिश कैप्चर एनी लैंड और एनी टेरिटरी दे ब्रिंग चेंज एंटायरली. Whatever changes took happens in the past took place at center never affected the village system. The village system continued as it is, but the British changed the prevalent system. What is prevalent? Ongoing. Prevalent means ongoing, and tried to set up a new system. So they try to change the ongoing system and they will try to bring a new system. So that makes uncomfortable in people's life. Looking at the changing nature of village system created a feeling of instability and insecurity in the minds of the people. Instability. What is instability? Unstable, which is not fixed, which goes on changing. Instable. And insecurity, not secure, not protected. So people believe a kind of fearness कि कल कुछ भी हो सकता है. ये ब्रिटिशर्स की पॉलिसी आई है तो ब्रिटिशर्स कुछ भी कर सकते हैं, हमारे ज़मीन को छीन सकते हैं, हमारे घर को वो लोग ज़बरदस्ती हमें बाहर निकाल देंगे या फिर हमारे पैसे ले लेंगे. सो इट क्रिएट्स अ काइंड ऑफ इनस्टेबिलिटी एंड इनसिक्योरिटी अमॉन्ग दी पीपल. So these are the few things that created angerness among the people. So these things brought a change in the society or the minds of the people against the British government. Right?